Tuesday of 2026 at 7:33 has been provided in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Sunshine Law. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
York,
Here.
Nelson, here, Lenzi,
Here.
Cotton,
Here.
Letty,
Here.
O'Rodnick,
Here.
Decker,
Here.
and Lee. Here, thank you.
Next for motion to open public comment on the agenda.
I make that motion to open.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
So more people than usual. This is not the open public comment session. This is to comment whether you object to or would like to have something else on the agenda. As well,
For anything that's on here.
give a clarification,
Or question?
probably during the item, but.
It's a two general questions. Number one is, the letter, the data center letter, I don't see it there for the public to look at. That's one question. My second question is, you had posted on the community Facebook page preemptively saying no action will be taken. Just curious what that was for. You can talk about it when you get to it. And then the area in need of redevelopment. So tentative, I would just, if you can, kind of talk about why now and how this particular block and lot was deemed possible, or if it is deemed in need of redevelopment, like who deemed it in need of redevelopment. So you had it as tentative, or you had a different word before, but so I don't know if it's going to be discussed, but if you could, that would be
Sure. We took the letter from the Environmental Commission, and the Environmental Commission is an advisory commission to the planning board, so we took it as a letter to the Township Committee, not a public document, so that's why it's not there. No action to be taken is no action to be taken. I think people were concerned that we put these on the agenda because there was some sort of active application or interest. So far, there's been zero interest in Bethlehem Township in data centers or building them. Nobody's asked, we have no applications. So it's just being proactive and discussing what we need to do. And same with the flop, quite honestly, a lot of residents asked, we want to be proactive about it. And we can reiterate that, again, the area of needed redevelopment, and we did explain that, I believe, in June.
I think I missed, that was the Zoom meeting, because
Okay, so we can
I missed that,
We
because.
can share it again.
Yeah, and as far as there's no action needed because there's nobody coming to the town right now, that's
No, what I'm
exactly.
saying is there may be an ordinance banning, there may be an ordinance, there may be a resolution. There's no action tonight. This is
I just,
purely gathering.
and I was just questioning why there was no, preemptively saying there was no action. I don't agree with preemptively saying there should be no action. Thank
Would
you.
you like me to put an ordinance without announcing it to the public on the agenda?
Just stating my opinion.
I'm just sharing that the proper rules of public engagement. Any other comments on the agenda? Motion to close?
Make a motion to close?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion to adopt regular session minutes of June 18th, 2026.
I make a motion to adopt which one?
Regular session,
Regular session minutes of May 7th.
June 18th.
My minutes on different.
You are.
Well, I will make a motion for the June 18th.
What was it? Okay. So I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Make a note, there's no executive session held at that meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Yeah, same, thank you, Mr. Glenn. I have a motion to adopt regular session minutes of July 16th, 2026, again, no executive session held at that meeting.
I make to adopt those minutes.
Second. All in favor?
I
A motion to adopt resolution 2026.82, lien redemption for block 13, lot 1.
make a motion to adopt that resolution. for the redemption.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to adopt resolution 2026.83, tax refund appeal, block 555, lot 1.
I make a motion to adopt that resolution for the tax refund.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2026.84, cancellation of taxes, disabled veteran exemption, block 5, lot 12.
I make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adopt resolution 2026.85, salary resolution. This is adding, Luke Grassi as a new equipment operator for the Department of Public Works.
I make a motion to adopt the updated salary resolution.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And to partner with that, resolution 2026.86, hiring full-time DPW equipment operator Luke Grassi.
I make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 26.87, we will table to the discussion item. And resolution 2026.88, escrow refund, block 6, lot 29.
I make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And a motion to pay all bills in the amount of $1,752,249.10. I will note $733,720.17 of that is going to the North Hunterdon and Voorhees Regional High School District. $636,363.11 is going to the Hunterdon County taxes. $64,860.30 is going to the county library tax. And $63,092.43 is going to the county open space tax. The majority of this tax bill are going to other agencies.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote, please.
Galletti,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Muir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Report, municipal engineer, Mr. Decker.
Just a few things, Hickory Ridge 2, DOT project, the road was milled yesterday. And was scheduled to be worst next week, I believe next Wednesday.
Will they complete that in one day?
What's that?
Will they complete that in one day?
Yeah, they'll be able to pull that pavement in one day. Also, stormwater management, prior to the meeting, Ms. Wilder and I sat down with the local public education process for our annual report. And the environmental commission was basically going to collect the information, not necessarily run everything, but they're going to be the kind of the clearinghouse that will collect the information to provide us for the annual report. And Suzanne knows that if she has any questions to reach out.
Thank you for doing that, taking the time.
Lastly, the real rules. They went through their public comment. I've reached out to Dave Mahan from the DEP to find out if there's anything that changes the model ordinance and so forth, and there is not. So the model ordinance that came out with the real rules, stormwater control ordinance, is something that the town needs to adopt. I also asked if, because it took them this long to resolve it, does the town get an extension as far as when to adopt the ordinance? The answer to that is no.
What is the remaining time?
It needs to be adopted by January 20th of 2027, which I pointed out to DEP that they might as well say December 31st. Because you're not gonna introduce and adopt an ordinance the first 20 days of the year.
Do we need to introduce it in November, first meeting in November?
You would have to, yes, at the latest, you'd have to introduce it in November, have the planning board. And the other thing that has to happen with this is, as in previous ordinances, it has to go to the county for review. So.
Can you, with that, can you prepare for the second meeting in October?
We can have it prepared probably for even the second meeting in September.
Okay.
If we could. So it's not a complete overhaul of the stormwater ordinance, it's going into an amendment, but
So we'll say not no later than the second meeting in October is, we'll get Mr. Spelling to make sure it's on the agenda.
What did occur with the real rules is DEP essentially extended their legacy time period to July of 2027 as opposed to July of 2026. And the town does have the ability when the ordinance is adopted, to either make the ordinance effective upon its adoption date, or the town follows DEP and basically grandfather to the January or the June or July 2027 date. I'm not quite sure how we can do that in the ordinance, but they gave us that flexibility, so that's what I think. And that's all I have. Unless there's any questions.
No questions, I'm gonna ask you to stick around for at least the data center discussion. Report of public safety officials, I don't believe there are any officials, if anybody else. Ben has been about them. Okay. We'll look for future reports. I will share our state police liaison is out on some short-term medical leave, so I apologize that he hasn't been here in public to give public reports, but we'll be back for this likely in September. There is no old business on the agenda. Under new business, we'll move into our discussion items. First is to permit the use of a grill at Heritage Park on September 8th, 2026. Share, so we have to do these as Township Committee approvals because of the state fire marshal regulations. We can't openly have a blanket permit for barbecues and fires and things at Heritage Park. So you are welcome to always apply for these if you're having an event at Heritage Park, such as the Senior Citizen Committee is now doing. And then we just need to approve it as a Township Committee. So can I have a motion to open this discussion?
I make a motion to open this discussion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
They do this every year. We've been there and participated and enjoyed the fruits of their hot dog and hamburger. They're very serious about not letting us help. So I don't see any restrictions.
No.
Anybody have any objection?
Mm-mm.
Motion to close.
Make a motion to close.
No second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approve the use of the grill at Heritage Park on September 8th, 2026 for the Senior Citizen Committee meeting.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Next discussion item is the award of bid for the 2026 Community Day fireworks. So no Community Day is October 3rd this year, beginning at 4 o'clock and running through until the fireworks end, which is approximately 9:30ish. This was a closed bid process, and the recommended award is for D&M fireworks for 481 firework pieces for a total amount of $6,000. Motion to open for discussion.
I make a motion to open the discussion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion and clarification? Any objection to awarding for D&M fireworks? Motion to close.
Make a motion to close.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt resolution 2026.87, award of bid to D&M fireworks for the 2026 Community Day fireworks.
Make a motion to award that resolution.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have our two discussion items. I'm gonna preface both of these a little bit. So again, this is shared, no action is intended to be taken tonight. This is really for information gathering. There's things about starting with the block cameras that we need to understand as a township, what we can and cannot regulate. Mr. Grodnick's gonna help us out with that as our legal counsel. So it's really information gathering. I will open for discussion to the Township Committee first, and then we'll open to the public for you to make comments. But again, we don't plan on taking action to prevent if we're allowed to, or have an ordinance to prevent flock cameras. I should share that I looked on the map, there are no flock cameras directly in Bethlehem Township. There are two on Charlestown Road by exit 12, Union Township. And there's one on the corner of 579 and 173. It appears to be, I hadn't looked, but on the map, somehow attached to the old graphite mill down there in Bloomsbury. The township has no intention of participating or purchasing or doing anything with flock cameras. We don't have a police department, and not only that, we're not interested in them for zoning or the park, or we do have our own security cameras at the park. We're installing security cameras in the community center as we use it more and more. Unfortunately, as storms have become more prevalent, the shelters use more, so we're putting cameras there, but those are not locked. They're our own basic private closed caption security cameras, more for vandalism protection. So we have no intention of participating or using block, but want to preface that one, a little preface for the data center. I have a motion over this discussion.
Make motion to open the discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I kind of shared, so I put this on the agenda, and I apologize to my fellow community members for putting both block cameras and data centers, but we might as well just pull the Band-Aid off, and we're only meeting once a month in the summer, so I get to spend more time with the town, because they try to report me, so this is my way of doing everything. But again, there were quite a few residents, I think this started, I'll share some, people did notice them in the Union Township intersection. And more residents asked me if they were existing here, what the relationship would be to a town like Bethlehem Township. And so I thought it was good to just proactively put it on the agenda and address appropriately. Like I shared, we have no intention of purchasing, participating, using, installing block cameras as your local government. I did investigate it. I will share too. Our Township Committee, I would want to give them, I'd say, a lot of respect, because this committee currently is very proactive in educating themselves. I did share some articles on both sides of the block cameras, and encouraged our Township Committee to investigate on their own. So we all think independently. We're all going to share our thoughts on this. But again, this committee did spend some time with it. But and my personal opinion is that I would like to. I we may not be able to, if there was an ordinance to prevent them, I would support that. But I don't know if we have that jurisdiction to do that, and even if we did, we have state and county roads that we may not have jurisdiction over as well. So with that, just maybe for some preface, I'll begin with Mr. Brown.
Yeah, so flock cameras, they've been around for probably about 5 or 6 years now. I work as a prosecutor in 11 different towns, and so I'm very familiar. I've also experienced the implementation of block camera systems as part of land use approvals. So I'll give you just 2 anecdotal stories about what they are and how they're implemented. They're called ALPRs. They read your license plate. And what they do is they allow via text messages for officers to get real-time updates about people that are individuals that have suspended licenses and up. So typically, if there's a warrant out for their arrest, or it's a stolen vehicle, that's one of the highest alerts under the flock system, that it will alert and give some data via text to the officers so they can respond. In the land use context, we're seeing a lot of commercial landlords working with police departments that typically had provided for hourly patrols. We're seeing a lot of the police departments prefer ingress and egress license plate camera readers, specifically flock. And for the developers to avoid the need for in-person patrols, or as many in-person patrols, but that allows them to see who's going in and out of these commercial properties. And it's almost like having a constant patrol there. So there's obviously huge benefits to law enforcement. However, we always have to balance that with our constitutionally protected rights. The Fourth Amendment talks about warrantless search and seizure of persons and properties. And the courts, there's a lot of interesting cases that are kind of bubbling way through the appellate division and getting to the higher courts. Typically, they're criminal cases where it's, let's say, a serial robber, or the location of some serious crime. And what the police are doing is they're gathering information through their relationship with flock and other ASMRs, and or ALPRs, and they're compiling evidence that they're using in criminal prosecutions. Problem is they're monitoring everyone, and there's a lot of discussion about what data is collected. there's something called the plain view doctrine, which essentially means you don't have an expectation of privacy if you're on a road or on a public sidewalk. But it gets a little, looking at the constitutionality of it, you're looking at essentially mass surveillance of citizens. And they're compiling a tremendous amount. So I'm not some expert on what that data is, but a lot of concerns have been raised as to facial recognition in addition to the license plate readers, or even Bluetooth and cellular data that they're gathering. So these are the two balances, the two competing interests that need to be balanced. The right under the Fourth Amendment to privacy, and really it comes down to, again, the warrantless search. So police departments using their Flock software can search for individuals without a warrant, because again, it's a plain view doctrine. You're just out in the public and you have no expectation of privacy. So that's really the kind of the background on the Flock cameras. They can be very useful. I mean, I can tell you that we had a smash and grab robbery in Raritan at the Ulta beauty store, and the Flock cameras worked great and got the individuals who were involved in that smash and grab robbery quite quickly by some of the cameras that are on 202. So I think it's just it's important to have this debate, and educate yourself on where mass surveillance is. Supreme Court law, which is somewhat dated to this new technology, talks about intermittent data collection, and the opponents of this technology really fear that it's, again, not just intermittent data collection. It's stored, it's recorded. And I think the other real concern is who has access. I mean, we keep seeing these articles of typically ex-wife or an ex-husband with a law enforcement partner who's looking for an individual that they may be interested in tracking them. And we've seen a number of high-profile arrests of police officers for misusing this system. There's certain levels of public data that require different levels of authority to access. So for example, if a police officer has the ability with their typical software system that integrates throughout the country to do background checks and things like that, it needs to be justified. And again, what most people want is, if the government is looking in at your personal property or your digital footprint or your digital persona, then the question is whether they should be getting a warrant from a judge, which would require probable cause, or whether they can just access this proprietary software system and look at an insane amount of data on each individual.
So if we were interested in creating an ordinance preventing installation of Flock cameras, does it have any enforceability?
Probably not. You can't, an individual, businesses sign up to Flock, like some commercial landlords, they integrate with the police departments. Individuals on their homes can have cameras. I mean, when we look at criminal invasion of privacy, and we look at the tort of invasion of privacy. So if this happens in the cities, if I have a camera that's a high-tech camera that's pointed into somebody's bedroom, even if I'm in my house, that's still violative. It's tortious behavior because you have an expectation of privacy in your bedroom. But if you're just have a camera out in the front of your house to see the Amazon driver when he delivers, and you see from that broad spectrum other properties, that's not an invasion of privacy, and that's not a civil tort. I have seen a couple of municipalities look at ordinances that may limit Flock cameras, but typically the number one consumer of Flock cameras is municipalities. So as long as we don't adopt and integrate what typically what this would be with the state police, and with our cooperation, if we don't do that voluntarily and contractually, we don't have, I don't think we have to do it by ordinance at this point. I think there's 4 towns in New Jersey that are trying to enact these ordinances. I'm not so sure it's worth at this stage until we get some guidance from higher courts. Because what we don't want to see is flock camera sue Bethlehem Township and make a test case out of it. So I'll keep my eye on it and see how these ordinances are, if they're struck down or they're upheld by the courts.
So
Very new.
Princeton has, I think they're contemplating an ordinance.
I'll take a look at that.
Even if we had an ordinance though, if it's on 173 or one of the county roads, would that?
No jurisdiction.
Yeah, we're out anyway, which is probably where they would end up being.
Yeah. The prosecutor's office has one, and the Exxon has one. And again, if you're the business owner at Exxon, you want that presence. It does have some deterrent value as well. But it's incredibly fast. I mean, within seconds, and the officers, they can set the range of the severity of what they're looking for. So, a suspended driver on Route 22, you're in 4 car. The officers are not gonna they're gonna set it higher to either a felony arrest, a felony warrant, or a robbery or some higher level of, trigger that gets a massive response. But it's good to know who's coming in and out of your business. But so it's incredibly, I mean, the police officers love it. I mean, there's talk of drone flock, which is like a whole other level of surveillance. But on the other side of that, incredibly rapid response to finding, criminals and trying to, arrest them should they have a warrant for their arrest. So you can see both sides of it. The police officers absolutely love it. It's a great technology. Clinton was was the first town to implement it, and you see it even back in the old Crown Vics, they had the 4 cameras, and it was just flagging all the suspended drivers. So it was very valuable because otherwise you're looking at following a car, finding probable cause for the motor vehicle stop, and now this provides that sort of instant probable cause to allow for the officers to pull over the motor vehicle.
Other committee members,
Well, that answered all of my questions. Believe it or not, that answered every single one of my questions, which I had about 4 or 5 of them. Mainly the 173 county roads. I didn't think we would have jurisdiction. I had questions about could an individual homeowner put one up, and I guess, yes, you can, because we all have Ring cameras nowadays anyway. We're on camera pretty much from the time we leave our homes, which I don't like. I'm guessing this would probably just add another level of surveillance that I don't like. But you answered everything that I had.
So Michael, for my own understanding, the distinction between flock and a ring camera and a private security is just the speed and data and proprietary collection system.
Yeah, I mean, it's resolution, it's capability within the cameras.
But it's a private company. Flock is an independent, it's not.
No, it's not. They work with governmental agencies. It's a subscription service. And it's only a few $1,000s to get a flock set up, put up. So, I mean, there's literally in the last few years hundreds of thousands of flock cameras that have been installed everywhere.
Signalized intersections.
Yeah, there was just a case about legal cannabis border crossings and whether the police can use, because they suspect, they know certain drivers are going across the border. And then the Supreme Court should be taking that case up shortly to determine whether the police can just use the fact that you traveled between 2 states as grounds or rationale for stopping the motor vehicle. So I would keep an eye on it's really evolving very, very quickly with AI. And I think the main concern is it's not, the data collection is not just your camera. It's not just your license plate. It's not a photograph of your, it may be beyond.
So if it goes to.
So I just want to say something real fast, Mike. Being a police officer, we use the flock cameras a lot, and that the data collection. Social media is a great thing. 6 months ago, everybody was an expert in ICE. 6 months before that, everybody was an expert on Palestine and Israel. 6 months ago, because social media makes everybody an expert in everything. So the flock cameras, they don't record, they don't tell us who's driving the car. They don't record who's driving the car. They don't scan your telephones. They don't scan your digital stuff on you, on your car, inside you. They don't scan any of that. They scan the license plate of the car. And that's what they scan. They scan the color of the car. They don't tell you what kind of car it is. They give you the description of a car. So, and the reason I say that is people always have questions. So, like, we have a report of a burglary that occurred at a residence. And we go there and we ask the neighbors around. They say, oh, yeah, we see a black sedan that came up, a black four-door car that was in the area around that time. We can go around to the flock camera and do a search for a black four-door car. And it can show us any black four-door cars that went by those cameras during that time frame. And that could help us narrow it down. It doesn't tell us what kind of car it was and everything else. We actually have to search through the cameras and see what went past the cameras during that time frame coming in and out. Now, it may be the cameras, it may not be the cameras. They're not always perfect. It might be a blue car, it might be a gray car, it might be a white car. A lot of the concerns I see from people saying is they're concerned about how, what it says. When it picks up, when you say, like you said, a stolen car or a suspended driver, it reads it based off upon that license plate number. If the registered owner of that car is suspended, or the registered owner of that car has a warrant, or if there is a associated user of that car that has a warrant that might get attached to that, meaning we've had a boatload of shoplifters that we've caught because a lot of these shoplifting rings will use the same cars that the shoplifter themselves may not be registered to that car, but it may be one of their grandmothers. But these cars are constantly used by 6 or 7 members of the shoplifting rings that eventually we find out, and it gets entered into the flock system that, hey, it may hit Livingston one time, but the same car may hit a shoplifting event in upstate New York. It may hit somewhere down in Maryland. And so now all of a sudden we know this car is in this system. So if it hits, one of these shoplifting cars hits, it alerts that PD that, hey, there is a serial shoplifter that's in the area. Pay attention. Now we know that. So I just want to sort of put that clarification out there, maybe minds. So that's one of the concerns I see people always freaking out about. There is another thing out there called Signal Trace, whatever else, that apparently can read cell phones and all that. It's a very new program that's come out. It is not in use in New Jersey. And knowing the New Jersey laws and knowing the way the Attorney General is in New Jersey, if it was ever to come here, it would go through a hammer of Attorney General reviews and court reviews. But like you had mentioned earlier in regards to notifications, most departments, it's not individual officers that they get to determine the settings of it. For example, in my police department, ours is only basically set to the heavier crimes, to wanted persons or stolen cars. Ours don't hit on suspended drivers. Otherwise, we'd be getting hit all the time. If it's a stolen vehicle or if it's a wanted vehicle, then we get notifications that they enter towns. Another thing is also not perfect. I can tell you how many times the license plate picks up as being a stolen vehicle or a wanted vehicle, and we have to confirm it beforehand because it'll be a license plate of ABC 123. out of New Jersey, but when you look at the camera read, the license plate is a Pennsylvania license plate or a New York license plate or vice versa. So you always have to confirm to make sure that stuff is correct as well. Or I can tell you how many times the letter 111111 is a stolen vehicle out of Kansas, because sometimes those cameras might hit the crosswalk lines. If it's a mobile camera, the crosswalks in the roads and the mobile camera hits that, they reflect back and it reads those all those numbers as a one, those lines. So yeah, they're not always perfect as well either. So in regard to the policing side, those cameras have played a huge role in the reduction in the car crimes, motor vehicle thefts, and everything else. They also help for police departments take with their state police. People complain about them being up at all these exits right off 78. Our Perryville barracks, they have maybe at most 4 or 5 troopers on at a time that patrol multiple towns as well as 78. They cannot be everywhere. So if they're all out in 78 in a car crash or handling an 80 case or a burglar alarm or something going on out of town, and one of these stolen vehicles comes off at 78 and decides to come through our town and starts going through our area to maybe steal another car, that camera is going to alert state police to say, hey, there's a stolen car that just came in here, and it's going to notify them, give them an alert to start coming to the area to check for that stolen car. I'll stop talking. I was talking a lot.
No, Mr. Legend, you and I know we've discussed this from the perspective of law enforcement. I'll just add to it, I think it has to be mitigated too. Respectfully, where you serve is more densely populated. I wouldn't call it urban, but more densely populated, and again, respectfully, probably has more issues with car theft than primarily, and probably some other issues. So, looking at Bethlehem, I think we need to design or understand our response to what we experience.
3 months ago at the gas station, the Exxon gas station here, they had a stolen car with a bailout, and the guy took off in the woods down Charlestown Road that the state police were chasing. Got picked up on the flock camera. That's how they knew he was there.
Well, then that actually would answer a question then. If the state's gonna put them up along 173 anyway, they'll be on 31. You would think maybe Charlestown. I know there's residents here right now that live on Charlestown, but that's county. By me, Asbury West Portal, that intersection, which will then be up every single day.
The state does have a statewide program that they've been putting up cameras statewide to help with this. I don't know where all the locations are, but they have worked with the various municipalities as well as counties and obviously the state police for setting up cameras statewide to help with the crime.
I'm saying though that if county and state decide to go that route, we don't have jurisdiction.
No, we don't.
Coming through Bethlehem, I mean, you can't get to all of our town roads without really intersecting with one of the county roads and 173. I mean, so we might.
I mean, do we as a municipality need to put them up? No, we don't need them as a municipality.
That's what I'm
Stop
saying.
state and county from doing it? No, I don't think so. Can we stop a private entity? I mean, who are we to tell a private entity what they can or not do on their own private property?
Right, and that's my point. My point is they'll probably be here anyway. So if a stolen car is coming through town and county is more than likely state puts them up, somewhere in town it's gonna be detected.
Right.
So we don't really need to add to it, I guess is my. Oh, okay.
I do have a concern. Other people say also in New Jersey, from what we're told, is this database that it collects that vehicle information is only held for 30 days. Apparently now there's talk about reducing it now to 15 days with all the concerns and everything else. I don't know where that's going, but.
And then my other question was if it goes drone, we don't own the airspace, so then that's it, right? That's it.
How do we regulate the airspace, Mr. Government?
You don't, I mean, and I get a lot of complaints about people flying drones to other neighbors, and it's regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration. And you'd be shocked how little rights you have to the airspace and to the mineral rights or things under your ground. So, you know, I think it's a really good discussion to have. You know, and I agree with Mr. Lenzi, who is much more experienced, you know, in using flock, about its limitations, but I do think, you know, it does provide, a geographic footprint of your motor vehicle. And it does provide, if you have a bumper sticker or, you know, a distinguishing mark. But again, right now, the Supreme Court has said that you don't have an expectation of privacy, driving on a roadway. So that's the current law. These are absolutely 100% legal.
Isn't part of constitutional protection, was not monitoring our travel? Because there was all easy pass cases where they used them for speed monitoring and they were defeated based on that.
I mean, the Supreme Court case that I read today talks about intermittent. And I think to Mr. Lenzi's point about the duration of the data collection, you know, at some point, if you're compiling all this data, it's not intermittent. It's warrantless too. I mean, I think that's really the Orwellian concern.
So I'm gonna open to the public, but I said, Mr. Clay, I don't know if you emails you want to add.
No, everything.
Just one other thing too, also on the New Jersey side, for law enforcement, we can't just also just random-nilly go searching the ALPR database either. It has to be part of an active investigation that we're going into as well. I know there's been some high-profile cases that Mike has mentioned where cops have gone in there for X purposes, or from ex-spouses, ex-girlfriends, boyfriends, etc. And that's a specific no-no by the Attorney General guidelines, and is actually a fireable offense. And unfortunately, there is bad apples in every. I've seen people work in the post office that have used looking up people's information for no good reason. I've seen people working in banks and everything else. And unfortunately, law enforcement, there's some bad apples in this job as well, and they deserve to be fired if they're doing that. So I'm not going to defend those bad apples for doing there, but there are strict guidelines set by the Attorney General's office that say, you know, what it shall not be used for.
I mean, at best, it sounds like if we not in support, maybe just a resolution outlining concerns from the township, shared with the Attorney General's office and other agencies. So, with that, is there a motion to open to the public?
Make a motion open to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're stand up for both of these topics, or any public, since, I thank you, I appreciate everybody who's come out tonight, and plus there's many on Zoom. We'll start with those in the room in person. We did pass a resolution back in 2023. Each speaker is limited to an initial 5 minutes, and nobody would get a second round unless everybody's spoken at least once for those 5 minutes, and the second, if you come up a second time, it's limited to 3 minutes. So with that, we'll start with.
Hey.
And state your name and address.
Okay. Jess Valley Vasquez. I'm at 17 Old Schoolhouse Road, just down the street from Paul. And first off, before I get into it, I really appreciate all the thoughtful comments you had. Like, it feels really good to hear all that. So I did want to just make some extra comments. So first off, to think that it's just gonna stop at license plates, I think that's a really naive standpoint. It's just gonna keep on going and going and going till technology, like we see technology grow exponentially. And so like, let's say there were to come to our area, and we have a fantastic attorney, like I'm hoping that at least there's provisions of if there were to be any upgrades or anything like that, that it's controlled, you know, they're not gonna do an upgrade and then it finally does capture facial recognition or anything like that. Also, we kind of talked about it already. We don't even have our own police department. What are the crime statistics here? I know we heard about one Exxon event, but it's also right off of 78, which is one of the busiest highways in the country. And so like what really goes on here that we would need that? Like what, someone to beat a cow? I don't really know. And then also I think that a lot of us see on Facebook, these cameras are being stolen and they're being ripped down. constantly, it's, on Facebook, so I think it's also kind of like a waste of money for rich enough people rebuying them, putting them back up. And also, I think people are gonna get wise to this. I think that they're gonna be able to change their lifestyle. They're gonna, mark over it. It's, criminals get better and better as they go. So I think that the technology may be obsolete if we're just looking at license plate numbers. And yeah, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Barbara, sorry about this. Gentlemen.
Barbara Cochran, 507 Johnson. So first question is, did the coordinator for the flock in our area, were you advised them that they were going to install the cameras, or you were never told anything?
No, so as evaluating, points of resolution, that would be, one of them would be, requesting, requiring, the local municipalities be alerted. I think, this last question brings up a good point too, that is enhanced uses. Maybe they don't record, cell phones now, or they will, like, that should be notification as well, so. I'm taking some notes as you speak.
For now, nobody advised.
Nobody
the
advised
town.
me, because it was,
Then I have a-
residents that saw them and reached out to public officials both here and in Union.
Yeah. Then I have another comment, which for me, the technologies have to provide, the technologies offered by the government through contractors should provide some value to citizens. We're becoming a society of fear, so everything is to stop these fears. And this is such an invasive technology, in my opinion, prone to abuse. A lot of abuse can come out. And there is no balance with the freedoms of our American Constitution. This is, yeah. I think, I ask myself, what is the government then doing for me? It becomes a big philosophical question. I wanted a big umbrella that offers like an insurance for our well-being, not provide more fear. This is all I had to say.
No, thank you. Any other public comment? Ms. Butler?
Hello, Ben Hubsher, 27 Thomas. I want to provide a couple of things from this here is from when the county approved the prosecutor. They approved 21 cameras. They spent $180,000 to do that. The cameras down there on exit 12, Union Township, they just had their meeting last night. The committee said that they were not informed of that construction. The state attorney general, the New Jersey attorney general, says the restriction to data from these ALPR cameras are limited to law enforcement officers. But I think Mr. O'Rodnick said it best, it's like having a constant patrol car, like just trailing you, essentially. I think for an ideal resolution, it would be good to have maybe a sort of restriction between a house. Because if you have one right in front of a house, somebody's always pulling in, it's like having a patrol car in your driveway. Maybe some sort of distance requirement would be good. And then Mr. Lenzi said the data was for 30 days. In the contract with the county, we are in a 3-year data retention period. So the county prosecutor will hold that data for 3 years. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you for attending the meeting as well. Ms. Butler?
I just want to, not the facts, but what Barbara said about we're becoming a society of fear. It's true. And I actually agree with you, Mr. O'Grodnick, which doesn't happen often, but when you stated that we're becoming a surveillance state, that was pretty much kind of sums it up. Yes, we can catch criminals, but at what cost to us as human beings?
Agreed. Can I agree with him as well? We agree tonight?
What's that?
Can I agree with you too tonight?
Sure. Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
It's not the first time.
No,
Any other comment within the room? Mr. Man, oh, sorry,
Bruce Johnson, 930 Mountain View Road.
thank you for joining us tonight, I didn't think it was blocking, but, yeah.
Yes, okay, well, I can say it's good to be here, but I'm not so sure it is. But what I want to do is to remind you of what I had to do when I was on the committee. I had to take an oath. What is the oath? The oath is to protect, defend the Constitution of the United States. And the Supreme Court may have certain ideas about what that Constitution is, but you got to read the black and white here. Warrantless searches, the right to privacy is something that the forefathers had in mind when they wrote that thing. I don't care what the current Supreme Court says. This is your obligation. We have elected you to represent us, knowing that that oath is part of what you had to take to be in the spot that you're in. So I please ask you to remember that when you're talking about warrantless searches, having eyes on you that you don't even know are on you. It's not like a policeman coming up and talking to you, gee, what did I do wrong, officer? Gee, maybe I was going too foul. No, none of that's there. This is not what we have in mind with the Constitution, in my opinion, but I think it's, if you think about it, there was a reason for writing these words down. And I think you'll agree, if you look at your 3 a.m. self, that there's something about this that stinks, about getting cameras on you. We don't know. This is George Orwell plus 42 years. 1984 plus 42 is 2026. We are here. So I ask you to please think about this. Now, I've heard testimonies tonight. Okay, criminals. This is what we're after. Criminals. Question. Who decides who's a criminal? Who are we really looking for? The police are given orders to go, okay, this guy's acting badly. Let's go get him. But who's giving the orders? Are we suddenly a criminal because maybe we have certain ideas about rights or privileges, or maybe the color of our skin isn't the same, or some other thing happens. Who knows what? So first of all, definition of criminals, that's done by human beings. Human beings make mistakes. We have the idea of the what is justifiable and what is not, what is acceptable and what is not. All that comes into the idea of criminalization. Usually the court finally decides who really is a criminal, who isn't. We don't decide it as we're arresting people. So this is important. We think about Bethlehem Township. I've been here for a long time. I love this place. The idea of being free, of being, this beautiful open air, wonderful situation. I can walk wherever I want in the town. I can hear the car coming just from the noise of the tires. Come on, this is not New Jersey as we know it in the more populated sections. This is a fantastic freedom. But one of those freedoms is, I want my privacy. That's important. This is Bethlehem Township. This is a small section of Hunterdon County, but you guys are in charge of it. So please remember that when you're making up your mind on this thing. I actually think that we should rely on the Constitution here, that you don't need to write a special ordinance for it because there is some liability. I guess this was brought up properly by the lawyer, but I think the lawyer also should be ready to defend our constitutional rights should this thing. Think about it. The county hasn't even told the townships what they're doing. Can you imagine what we as citizens are going to know about these cameras? This is not comfortable. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Menace.
Freddie Menace, 40 Polk Town Road. We talk about public safety a lot. I spent 15 years serving this township on fire departments, rescue squads. Public safety starts with accountability. First thing with these flock cameras is they're not easily accessible to defend yourself. They're not a public record, okay? They're a private organization. That's an issue. It's hard to get that to defend yourself in court. Secondly, a lot of these cameras are installed in what's called crash zones. These are zones established by the DOT and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration that pretty much restrict what goes in those zones because a car could hit it and cause life harm or death. A lot of these cameras are installed without breakaway devices inside those zones between the roadway and a guardrail. They've been plenty of incidences of people have gotten injured by these. And I'd like to make one last final point. Talk about criminality and whatnot. Well, there's almost 100 police officers, not just a couple, almost 100 now, that have been charged with misuse of these cameras. So that's almost 100 more crimes that exist now than before when those cameras were installed. And that's it.
Any other comments in the room? Anybody on Zoom joining us? You could have to shut your camera off, but it makes it, or turn your camera on, makes it easier, or use the, raise your hand so we know if you want to make a comment. Yeah, can we take that as there's no comment from those joining us online? A motion to close public comment on this topic?
Make a motion to close public comment.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll have next steps then.
Yeah, so I was taking a lot of notes, as you shared your comments. I think, based on this is what we wanted, was to have your input, because as Mr. Johnson said, you know, we're here to represent you, and so we want to gather this information. Based on what we're able to do, I think a resolution to start in opposition, or a resolution of responsibility, maybe we call it, and state the things that we would like to see, some notifications and some controls that are put in there, that other agencies would be required to provide to local municipalities. We'll try to prepare that for one of our first, probably the second September meeting. But we'll try to share with league municipalities and other municipal political action groups and try to make a little bit more noise about this. I wanted to get the quote right, but when Cochran shared that we live in a world of fear, the Benjamin Franklin quote, "Those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety," popped into my head. So I think it's a good summation of where we are with these cameras and the type of world we want to live in. And maybe we start that resolution referencing the constitutional rights. So I appreciate everyone coming out and sharing their thoughts on the cameras. It helps us better frame how we can approach this. You brought up many good points that will include the resolution, so thank you for that. The second is a discussion regarding data center recommendations from the Township Environmental Commission. We received a letter from the Township Environmental Commission outlining many of the reasons why Bethlehem Township should not encourage, desire, allow data centers in the municipality. Again, I apologize for it's on the agenda twice, but we were going to discuss this in July, and we ended up on Zoom because of storms and power outage issues and things. So we're putting it on tonight. So that was what sparked this. As I have Mr. Decker stay and Mr. Ogodnik, I asked them to review. I think largely our existing zoning precludes any significant data center. Of course, everybody has the right to come for a variance in the site plan, and that's something we would have to deal with. And I'm not sure a blanket ordinance can take away property owners' rights to a hearing in a planning board, so an ordinance may not be suitable here either. But again, we're here to represent you, and I think we all have our own thoughts about data centers here. Likely they align with the majority of folks that are in this room. But we wanted to have this discussion in public as well. When I shared information, I did share positives from New Jersey Business and Industry Administration as well, defending data centers, because I wanted to counterpoint. What's interesting when I talk about, and I asked Mr. Lindsay about where he served, those positives don't apply to all municipalities in all situations. So it's interesting that people can provide positives really about anything, but are they appropriate for a place like Bethlehem Township? Some of those workforce development and tax revenue and things, but I think they're largely outweighed by the negatives here in a place like Bethlehem Township. But again, we want to make sure that we have all the information so that, as Mr. Godwin shares, another agency, a developer, or somebody else comes in and challenges us from a legal standpoint, we can state that we looked at all sides, we researched this as best we could, to best understand that and protect and defend Bethlehem Township of choosing to prevent data centers is our path. So, with that same procedure, we'll open for discussion amongst the committee. Ask, perspective from our professionals of my assessment of the difficulty, to place the data center is indeed true, and then we'll open to the public. So, I have a motion to open for discussion about, data centers, in view of the Township Environmental Commission recommendations.
I make a motion to open discussion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So again, I kind of framed where I stand. I don't see the appropriateness in Bethlehem Township. I'm not opposed to some of the positives that were shared, for other communities potentially, but, you know.
Is there any way we tighten something up? I don't know, maybe at the planning board level about businesses that use water.
So that was one of the
Noise,
things I
noise
talked about.
levels.
Noise
I don't know if we can tighten something up or.
Noise levels, one of the things they stated in one of the articles was that it's a closed system.
Yeah,
So the problem is with that is, okay, it's a closed system, that means there's probably some antifreeze in there and other stuff, chemicals. And I haven't seen this in any of the articles. What happens if there's a catastrophe or something breaks in these things? You've got antifreeze in there, you're gonna have something like that. The electronics, the wiring, the cable harnesses are gonna be immense in there. If there's a fire, all the chemicals that are coming out from, it's gonna do more harm to the community than anything else. Data centers can be notoriously dirty. There's nothing really going on in there except a lot of chemicals. The other thing is they talk about job creation. These are basically lights out.
I think the job creation where I read is mostly from the building of them.
But even the
that's
buildings,
what
they're not gonna
Yeah.
call us JCOM to sit there and wire.
Right.
They've got their own people, they're paying these guys $350,000 a year to wire these data centers. An electrician. So they've got their own people, they're not pulling anybody local here. I mean, about the only local people that would make any money would be the person got me arrested.
Yeah. That's why I was wondering what we could tighten, I don't know, the 173 land use.
I would say that you can do this two ways. The purpose of our zoning ordinance is to regulate the use. So you can prohibit altogether, as I know Kingwood just did it, now Alexandria, I think also ban data centers, so you can ban use. Our ordinance, and typically most ordinances have, if it's not specifically enumerated as a permitted principal use, it's not a permitted principal use. Or you could make it a conditional use. I think the problem that this is a huge issue in Somerset County right now, as you can imagine, the transition from all these corporate parks, J&J is leaving, Ortho's gone. I mean, there's a number of sites that are vacant, and currently these are very high valuables. So these are valuable buildings that could provide a ton of tax revenue. However, you have noise, water consumption, power. Those are kind of the main concerns. I do understand they're evolving technologies to use less water.
But I would share, like, similar to the flock camera, Ortho and J&J are already heavily developed sites. So while I'm not saying that's a great use or better, the jump from a pre-existing Ortho site versus a farm here in Bethlehem is an easier leap for that community than for what we would see.
Right. But no traffic, and it's a high rate. There's pros and cons to the development of data centers. Data centers are, I believe I was doing a lot of research today, 2.5% of our GDP data center construction. Huge number. But I would also temper that, as my colleague said, who's handling it in another couple towns. He said, 30 years ago, an office building a la Foster Wheeler was $100 million rate. It's been vacant for 10 years. So what's valuable today, land uses may not be valuable tomorrow. Right? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think
we don't have the infrastructure out here to support it. It would overtax, our power grid, the water supply, the peacefulness of being out in Bentham Township. It just doesn't fit. I know Exxon and Clinton Township is another one for mobile.
There's a
the Philadelphia 131. That's being considered. So there
that has a water source.
yes,
Already.
yes. So there may be areas where it's appropriate. I quite honestly don't see any area within Bethlehem or most of the rural Hardin County towns where it is. I mean, you have enough issues with power grid going out, on a regular basis.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. You do? Yeah. To have a facility like that, that's drawing current and, brownouts and everything else that could encounter. On the same token, it may not be as appealing to them because you don't have the electrical infrastructure.
Yeah, I think some of the mega facilities are as much as 100,000 homes in that in consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree, and I would just echo the water issue. I know that they're evolving to closed loop systems. But remember, as we've gone through a number of meetings, noise regulations and how these data centers can, they're at 59.99 decibels constantly.
Yeah.
They're at the maximum hum constantly.
Yep.
And you can buffer it, Exxon, you're not gonna hear it on 22 if Exxon's, building has a 60 decibel cooling tower or whatever.
Yeah, and to Mike's point before about, you can either prohibit them or the structure ordinances around them. There's something to be said for both. The structure ordinance around it, you've put thought into it, you establish conditions, and if they can't meet conditions, it doesn't happen. That could be size, that could be,
Right.
And then also when you're looking at data centers, you need to define what is a data center. Okay, because, theoretically, you could call the server room in the office you work in as a data center. It functions the same, it's a small scale, but you need to define that, and maybe that's where, looking at it from an ordinance standpoint, we actually include definitions of what is a data center could be helpful.
Have you both seen ordinances that you think are good templates to start? It shows that.
We absolutely have a number of towns that I think we can work from to outright ban it if that's the direction one of them in.
It's very similar to when solar came out, it was new tech, not new technology, but it was expanded, and municipalities were scrambling to put together ordinances to regulate that. So there are a number, I know West Amwell is in the process of doing one as well, and I believe they're going with the conditional use.
Yeah, and to your earlier point on definitions, the appellate division case just came down that my partner was successful on for a town that really looked at, being precise in the definition and then allowing the planning board to determine if the use is permitted or not permitted. Because typically, if a municipality or zoning official said, this is not permitted use, you can appeal that to the Board of Adjustment. This case says, well, if there's ambiguity, you can argue that it's a permitted use before the planning board. So I think you need to really define what the use is.
Other comments from committee members? The question.
I basically think it's probably not suitable for this town.
So Lindsay, anything you want to add or any questions you have at this point?
Not really. I think that there is a future with AI, and I hope to see the US get ahead of it before the rest of the world. However, There's definitely no future for AI centers or data centers here in Bethlehem Township. We just don't have the infrastructure or anything to even support it. I wouldn't want to see our town get destroyed by one. So I'm all for, looking to ordinance or something to prevent them from coming here.
I agree, there's a larger discussion around this that goes way beyond, the whole AI race, is real. But, yeah, I don't think we need to be a part of it.
No motion open to public for comment?
I make a motion on.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And, same thing, 5 and 3. Name and address, of course, I know you did it once, but every comment, name and address.
That's fine. I'm proud of it. Jess Valley Vasquez, 17 Old Schoolhouse Road. And again, the comments you have are just so great. So I really appreciate all the work you've all done on this. So I am a risk control professional for one of the country's biggest commercial property insurers. And the reason why I have a job is because buildings burn down and I get to look at those buildings. Mr. Coletti, you brought up a fantastic point. I'm talking about the grid too. So let's say they're probably gonna need a fire pump to make sure that the sprinklers are adequate. Well, if it's electric fire pump, there's a power that goes down. Well, now you're, shut out of luck. Diesel, let's say it's only can run for a certain amount of hours and then it's done. Again, and our fire department does not have the resources to be able to handle it if there were to be a fire. And then also from a legal standpoint, I mean, the Highlands Act too, there's just no way the Highlands Act would allow this to happen.
I always say, I respect the Highlands and appreciate working with them, but
Yeah.
we need to protect ourselves all the time.
Yeah, and then just another point is I think a lot of us are active in the Bloomsbury warehouse debate and like that just goes on and on and on. I think it's also a waste. And I feel like something similar would happen here where, you just keep on going around and around with, DEP and people trying to, get the permissions. And I just think it'd be a waste of time too. So, thanks.
Thank you. I know it's probably kind of just, dumped down the fire, because I hadn't thought about when you brought up about the copper cable and everything else. And not to disparage our fire department, Mr. Jimenez serves very well, but I'm somewhat familiar with the apparatus and the volunteers, and that was my first note. It scared me because we couldn't respond to that.
Actually, because it's a data center with all the electronics and power, it's probably gonna have a halon system in there where they dump massive amounts of chemicals to quench the fire, but it's still not good for our environment.
And the HFF is gonna be banned in a couple of years anyway, too. So that's what you're talking about, like that's going to be a whole new system anyway. So.
Other public comment? Bob?
I agree with Jess. I think it is very good conversation. I think it's great. One thing that wasn't brought up as far as another negative is the heat that it emanates 6 miles out. And
I don't like heat at all.
yeah, me neither. And as far as like, okay, when you say our town is not suited for it, I probably agree for mega data centers, but we can't assume that they'll all be the mega data centers, they could be smaller. So I personally, 25 municipalities so far, at least 25 have written ordinances to ban them. Statewide, that's what's an article that I read from August 5th. I think might be more now. And to be proactive, but I do agree that having a definition of what it is really important, because I think there's some cross-reference, Teresa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to communications as far as being allowed. So I think having good definitions to not open ourselves up, but you didn't put this in, because it can be a broad term. But as far as model ordinances, Commissioner Kern of Warren County had put out, this was a while ago, back in May, I think, or April, a model ordinance. So I would assume he did his homework. I don't know him personally, but sounds like there are many examples that you could, but I think it's great that you're thinking about all the what ifs, but I would just like to encourage the township committee to be proactive, not wait until someone comes, because then we're screwed.
That's part of why I want to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that the AI competition market would take care of the business aspect of the thing. The Chinese are coming with a smaller model, or that they will figure out the business aspect. But all we have here is, and maybe they use less resources, I don't know. All we have here right now is free resources like water and land, and they might be a lot more precious in the future.
Thank you. Other comments in the room? Mr. Johnson, I still can't see you. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, maybe I do. Again, Bruce Johnson, 930 Mountain View Road. No, you're exactly on the right track as far as the appropriateness of one of these data centers in Bethlehem Township. It's not appropriate at all. It's just about like building the Empire State Building here and saying, oh, that works great in Bethlehem Township. It's not a good idea. And I really appreciate the idea of defining what this AI is, to do it the very best you can do on that, and some of these model ordinances will come in. So I really have nothing negative here. Just say I think we're on the right track, and we really have to keep this out. This would be devastating to Bethlehem. Thank you.
Thank you. On the public comment. So,
I'll do a brief one.
sorry.
A lot of us here in Bethlehem, we're also on well water. A thing that we have to consider is the impact of these things on the water table, the local water table. I don't want my well running dry because a data center moved into town. So maybe something like that on the planning board checklist of proposed impact on the water table, maybe the closed loop system, but that's also chemicals, and then further environmental impact. So something like that is, I think, got to be taken in.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't call you quickly. We were all getting at the same time.
Just Congress 12 Kensington Court. First, I'll just say thank you to the mayor, because you're the one who came to the EC, the Environmental Commission, and kind of kickstarted this conversation probably 9 months ago. And we all, at the EC, we went and looked into this and did research, and then prepared the letter and sent it to you. So that's why we are where we are here today, which is great. Just the thoughts about, like, there aren't really many places to put it, but I'm just thinking up and down 173, even though the parcels might be smaller than what a mega one could handle, like a string of small data centers, in my opinion, is just as bad as a big one. And then we have in the planning area, the Highlands planning area. I know the one with the overlay, you could never, but there is another parcel closer to the water, which is in the planning area, and that's a 40-acre property, which could be also used. And again, like Suzanne said, Commissioner Kern has the model organ to look at for tomorrow after. And then just the urgency of, let's not wait until, because there was another township that is now getting sued because they waited too long, tried to do it retroactively, and it didn't work out. So I appreciate you guys discussing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment in the room? We'll go to Zoom. Anybody online want to make a comment? Again, you could indicate, ideally by turning on your camera, but you need to use the hand signal or just jump in. Yeah. Motion to close discussion.
Make a motion to close the discussion, public comment.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I'll share, we did receive a few emails as well, so I just said it before, even when there's only 3 people in the room, I appreciate participation. That's what we're here for. And Mr. Johnson already said that, we represent us. That's part of the reason having this discussion. I think, I kind of came in this room in opposition to both of these items, but again, our role here is to be as responsible as possible. So, is there some unknown benefit to either one that we didn't know about that we could explore, or somebody would share something? We want to make sure we have all sides. So I thank all of you for participating. I also want to share, I don't always recognize our professionals, but I had sent some information to them a few weeks ago and then followed up again this week. And then I really, I don't want to be corny about it, but it was really a sense of calm and confidence sending you both information and asking for your opinion. I think we have an exceptional attorney and engineer. Mr. Becker, you've been with us for a while, so you understand the township. But both of you deeply understand who we are and who we represent and how we should be working and what's in the best interest. And then how to protect us from outside threats once we decide to make a choice. So with that, I think we should take steps for an ordinance, and we need to talk about whether that's going to be an outright ban or once we'll figure out which is going to be the best. So we'll talk to you and try to get that online as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Thanks for being proactive, too. This is really great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the fellow committee members. I know you did do your own research and there's a lot of them we read on, so thank you. The last discussion item, I think we're gonna table it because we still didn't get the letter from DOT unless Mr. We said you should.
Okay, well, I know they're anxious.
Yeah, it's, I mean, if you want to, I'm fine if you want to explain. I'll explain it if you want to fill in.
I can
Okay,
kind of get
yeah,
an overview. So, this resolution for tentative draft resolution that's, is for a piece of property on 173. It's next to the DOT yard. And it's a vacant piece of property. And between the Highlands Preservation and the township zoning, it's basically been put into inutility. There's
What's up?
for the island.
Meeting.
Mr. Legend, can you mute yourself?
So for the Highlands, you can only have a residential use there. Okay, because there's no existing improvements, there's no commercial or any other development on that piece of property. The township ordinance prohibits residential in that zone because it's the highway protection. So it's between the two, they conflict. There is, I believe, the current property owner has, they are basically a wrecking service,
It's a tow service,
Tow service.
DOT and state police contracts, so they respond to accidents on.
So they respond to the accidents on 78. And this location is an ideal location next to DOT and next to the ramp to get on and off of Route 78. So they've approached the township about having it declared as a Highlands redevelopment area. I just want to make sure we understand Highlands redevelopment area is different than, a redevelopment area in the context that we're accustomed to. A property that's gone into disrepair or, has been vacant for a number of years with a vacant building that's been declared for redevelopment and so forth. Highlands redevelopment basically says, okay, you can take this piece of property and you can develop it with ability to up to 70% of coverage. The difficulty here is that there's nothing to take 70% of, which is why the DOT property has been brought into this as well, because the Highlands will consider contiguous properties that are next to each other. So in order to try to get the redevelopment approval from Highlands, property would also be captured as a redevelopment property because it's next door, and then the vacant piece can get the benefit of the 70% impervious coverage. That, in a nutshell, is what it is. So it's basically a piece of property that otherwise has no permitted uses on it, and the property owner who provides a service for public health and safety. They shared a story of not being able to get from their current location to 78 for an accident, And I believe that, the
We
child,
result, they have one of the larger tow trucks with the boom, and they weren't able to lift the other vehicle in time to save, a pediatric, patient. It could be anybody though. I mean, that was part of the point is it is a health and safety, consideration. As well as I would add their design, I think is very conservative with the use of the space. It's not, it's still a satellite for the main operation, so it's amenable to what's in the area. It's less to be used than anything else.
yeah, the concept that they've shown us is basically so that we can have the equipment there at the ready to get out to 78 to respond. And as Mayor said, this is a kind of a satellite location for them. So that's the reason for the resolution. DOT has to agree to it, which is what we're waiting for, and I believe it's
DOT's given it a verbal, and then like I put what's their comment was, it is in the front office, which I assume they needed to craft the final letter, but there was no objection to being included. But for our own, kind of just crossing the T's, dotting the I's, since this isn't something that we always do, I think we should potentially wait, or we should wait for the DOT letter, and our next meeting isn't that far off in September. We're back to our regular meeting schedule in September. We'll table this. Mr. Jacobs, I apologize, but I'm gonna ask you just to stay, if anything else popping up under general public comment, or go through our reports, and
Yeah.
So thank you. Report of municipal zoning official was emailed, I believe they usually have a copy.
You call me? No
Not
questions,
on this item for tonight.
no questions
And
now.
that, well, you can ask in general,
Oh.
yeah, the regular, public comment section, yeah. So the zoning official report was emailed to the Township Committee. I believe there's a copy on the table in case anybody would like to see it. The report, Department of Public Works was also mailed to us. We'd like to share.
Just having a busy summer, but they've been out mowing roadside, down at the park, doing their catch basin work. We've got a couple of new people that are working on great.
It's good to know, because we see new folks in the
Yeah.
W jobs. Well, no.
Yeah, two new workers. Just doing their catch basins, storm cleanups, doing some trees when they come down. And they were getting ready to tar and chip, which I believe they finished.
Most of
I
them
think
completed.
it's pretty much all completed, yeah. I think when we wrote this, is that they hadn't started yet.
I think tomorrow they're doing, just so everybody knows, if you're on a road or near a road tar and chip, we do come out and street sweep and take off the extra. Bellwood Park, I think, is getting the preliminary street sweep tomorrow, just because it's an incline, and it's just safer to take off one layer than to get started. Thank you. Report tax collector was emailed to us, animal control official, we're waiting for a report. Ms. Mooney, please encourage the report. Report of Historic Society, tabled, although I will share they're one of our consistent, suppliers to newsletter reports, so it's not very incommunicative. Report of Office of Emergency Management, Mr. Lenzi, is anything you'd like to report tonight, is our way coordinator?
Just to report, currently, I renewed our, excuse me, I renewed the, our, trying to get the word out of my mouth right now. I got 10 different things going through my head. Sorry, doing some repair work down in the basement. First off is I just found out in the matter of Mr. Meary saw the email that I guess apparently Pattenberg Fire and Pattenberg EMS are now merging into one unit. That was put up by the union mayor, so I'm going to try to get more information on that to see what's going on with them. So we'll see what happens with there. In regards to our US grants, our grant funding through the FEMA and all that stuff, which gets renewed every year. That has been renewed. So if you guys keep getting any emails in regards to that, it has been taken care of and renewed. It was coming due come September, so you shouldn't be receiving any more emails about that. Was some what's that?
Sam.gov.
Yeah, there was some confusion with that. Apparently, we had two different registrations with that, so I had to call and get that straightened out as well. Other than that, we've had several storms, but luckily nothing major with the hurricanes this year, so that's all been nice and quiet. County has been working with us. We've been working with them with the different various heat waves that we've had. So we had our I should say our cooling shelter, which will become a warming shelter when it comes cold. That has been opened up, and I know we discussed putting a camera in there to monitor it since it's not supervised. But other than that, everything else has been going well.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, because I know it's active with the storms. We have a new Brightspeed representative too. Brightspeed is the bane of Mr. Lindsay in my existence, so please, as we try to get him to respond to certain things, it's unfortunately difficult to get them to respond quickly. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay, for
Yeah, currently appears our Brightspeed representative is out of Alaska, from what she said, if that means anything.
doesn't make it better.
No. So I'm hoping she's just temporarily there and will be back in Jersey eventually, but as of last communication, she's in Alaska.
All right, thank you. The Report Municipal Alliance is myself. This is the kind of drug and alcohol awareness for the schools. There's nothing to report at this time. Report of Township Attorney, Mr. Radnick.
Nothing further.
Report of Personnel Technical Support Coordinator, Ms. Dawson.
Well, like I mentioned, we've hired 2 new DPW workers. And all the TVs and the cameras came in to mount up there.
Here.
Yeah, right here, yeah.
Awesome. Report of Rose Coordinator, anything else there?
One thing, because I want to thank the crew this year. We're pushing them pretty hard to save the taxpayers' money. You know, we didn't hire the temporaries for the summer for the mowing down at the park and up here. And they're doing a really good job with our regular full timers and working a lot for the residents and responding to various residents' needs, despite being 2 temporary workers down. And I haven't really noticed any difference. So
No.
Other than the grass is growing a lot because we're getting a lot of these intermittent rainstorms. So it's been hard for them to keep up, but I still think they're doing a good job.
I said, I don't know, because it's not a deficiency of the staff, and
Right.
I did see a social media comment about some certain roadside mowing.
I forget which development.
Yeah, we had delay in the purchase of an arm mower and equipment, and so as soon as that comes in, it's not staffing, but.
Right.
Our DPW supervisor will be out there and addressing and cleaning up and pushing back some of the roadside brush further once that equipment is in. So. Thank you. Report of Joint Professional Service Coordinator, that's myself. It's largely referenced to our court. So I'll just share now, we are exploring adding Holland Township to our court system. The court itself had expressed no objection. Our judge and staff are prepared to add that, and so we're just kind of going through some of the finances of the contract, and we share our court. Of course, we're partners with Bloomsbury. We run the court together, so we're working through that relationship as well. So there will be a formal resolution at some point, but the biggest update for the court to do with that. Report of Highlands Council Coordinator, Ms. Nelson.
Nothing tonight.
Report of Health and Safety Coordinator, Mr. Lindsay.
Nothing to report tonight.
Report of Finance Coordinator, that's myself. Nothing really urgent. I'll share, I know again, in reference to the community page, there was a discussion about taxes, and so I shared the pie chart of where taxes go. So people understand, about any given year, between 12 and 14% of your taxes remain here in the municipal budget. Our budget is about $4 million. And, that's why I share when I read the bills list, the majority of the taxes, while we collect them all, they are then redistributed back to the schools at about 72 to 75%. And then out to the county. I'm open to have discussions, at any point about, taxes. I'll reiterate, our local municipal tax rate was reduced by 10.31% this year. And so we try to do our part to, keep our portion, in check, because of course it's the smallest portion, of your tax bill. Is that report land use coordinator, Mr. Flood?
So, I'll say that the, land use team is cranking through, we've got, EV really down, that's moved out now, the next one on the list is, San Marco. Still wondering what's happening with the need,
We're waiting for revised plans.
revised plans, so we're still on that trail, and then there was one I missed at the end of Blaine, that they were looking for variance and,
Yeah, that was amazing. There's anybody, I forget, I don't think anybody was here. From a planning board standpoint, I've been on the planning board here for just about as long as I've lived in town, 24 out of 26 years I've been on the planning board. It was a development, over on the Union Township side. And the house, the front yard is a front yard setback variance. Please their gratitude, you'll find this amusing. The township line was essentially 5 feet away from the house, so while they had the 75-foot in their front lawn, it didn't count because Bethlehem started within 5 feet of their porch. So it was a relatively quick approval because on the physicality of it, they had the space they needed for the addition they wanted, but they had to come in for a variance because of the technicality of the township lines. Really interesting. Felt bad for the residents, but they were in and out, they didn't use professionals. We tried to make it as painless as possible, but still showing up as painful in that situation. So they were approved and then they're on the resolution process. Thank you. Report of governing body members, we'll start, Mr. Clay.
nothing else to report.
Mr. Cotton,
Nothing to report.
Joanne,
Nothing to report.
Dawson,
Nothing further, it's summer.
all right. Report of township administrator, good morning.
I just have that, our new phones were installed. So, Comcast came in, gave you a.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Judy.
no, it's because it was switched over to fiber optic.
Yeah.
Fiber optic, that's why we have to get new phones.
The fiber optic.
They're all functioning now.
And I know,
Okay,
I haven't heard that they're not, so. And then as you, touched on, we do have the cameras for the community center, so just that we're aware of it. Yeah.
excellent, thank you. Report of mayor, the only, I would say that my major disappointment and failure this year is our digital dog and cat license system. So, we're addressing it now. We have a new plan for 2027 that we're already working on, and hopefully, well, I'm not even saying hopefully, it cannot fail. So we do intend to have a digital system for 2027. With that, this year, we're going to finish out the year requesting that the remainder will put out notification that the remainder of the dogs and cats that are not licensed, please do so via paper. And we will not be issuing summonses or late fees, but you do need to pay the base fee. Most people at this point have been proactive, and there's probably about 200 dogs and 100 cats that are not licensed this year out of 700 dogs and 500 some odd cats. So we'll put out some sort of official statement with guidance. But we do, I think, have a much more solid, albeit a little more expensive plan for 2027. So people will need to come up with a license. So
I'd like to thank the licensing,
yeah,
because she had a very difficult, getting everything out, trying to test the system.
she tested the system, she dealt with the failed system, she dealt with the old system, she tried to align with the state system. So while I feel the pain of failure, she felt the pain of trying to manage it all, and it was a very difficult year. So So we're gonna try to revisit technology in 2027. We already had a meeting. My request was it's August, that we have a functioning system by October, so that we know it's functioning, so when we announce it this time, we know it's all ready to go. It is from a different vendor, we handled and we, payment appropriately with the other vendor that did not deliver on what they promised, so. With that also, with the tax discussion, I would share, when I put that pie chart out, it opened up discussions with our school, our local school, not the regional school district. So the school board president and I have spoken. School, of course, is going back into session, next week, I believe. It's a busy time for them, but I've asked for, some time to meet with the school superintendent, with the business administrator and the, school board president. I'll have another township committee member join me, and then we plan on hosting some sort of joint meeting between the municipal government and the school board. Whether that's a presentation with the superintendent and the school board representative here, or whether we join them at their meeting, we'll figure out what we're going to do. But I just want to make it clear that communication is open. I would probably say I would prefer even greater and more fluid conversation, communication between the school and the township committee, but we try our best over here. But I do want to say that in lieu or in light of that tax conversation, I thought it was appropriate that at least the local governments that are responsible for using your tax dollars come together and have an open conversation or presentation. So we'll be working on that. Those are my only updates for now. Was that kind of a motion to open for general public comment?
Make a motion to open the general public.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You guys find it out.
Okay. Two things regarding the redevelopment of 24-1. So, they're operating the tow company now with it not being redeveloped. So I just question if it isn't designated redeveloped, what will happen? Does that mean that the tow company won't operate anymore?
Well, they're not operating out of that location.
Oh,
They have another location in Washington.
To Washington. They have to travel.
so right now they're not doing anything.
They're not doing anything there. They did have, I think there was one incident where there was an accident on 78. They had a dumpster there, but
There was a truck fire that had highly flammable mulch, and so they got it off from 78 and temporarily placed it there, and then took it to their full-time location.
So if it's not, hypothetically, if it never gets designated as redevelopment, nothing can happen?
no, there's no use in the current zoning.
Yeah, I mean.
There's
I'm
probably
sure-
ways you can, exactly, that's what I'm thinking.
There's also a Highlands exemption for health and safety, which this would qualify for, but I would rather have them come through our land use through the redevelopment process than to ask for a health and safety exemption.
Why is that? Curious.
So that we have some more control over it.
What do we have?
They still, even with this redevelopment, they still have to come to the township planning board looking for approval. Whereas
Oh, you're saying if they were exempt
They're
with,
deemed
they
exempt
just
as health
go and do
safety.
whatever.
There's less control on our side.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so the other question is, Charlie, who had to leave. What happens if the tow company with contract with the state runs out or they lose a contract? What happens to the property? Now you've designated it as redevelopment, for a specific reason, but that reason might have changed as one thing. And my other concern is, to me, and I think I've said this before when we were discussing the warehouses and the master plan, designating anything as redevelopment, to me, opens up Pandora's box. I just think it kind of takes away from what the Highlands was intended for, because there's loopholes. Not saying.
I don't disagree. I think the challenge with this property is it was essentially zoned in utility between two government agencies. And so we're trying to correct a mistake that occurred because of two government entities.
Okay, I hear you. I'm just, my red flag goes up when we hear redevelopment. So, and if the contract does run out, what happens to that particular parcel?
He's wrong.
Yeah, it would be, I think, any approval by the land use board could be structured that it could be pushed to
Oh,
this
so,
specific use, because it would be redeveloped for this type of use, and would have to continue as that type of.
very, again, with the definition very specifically saying what it can be redeveloped for. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of layers of protection when we encounter this type of scenario. But yeah, it would be, a heavy tow yard. And then if somebody were to if they lose the contract, they can continue to use it as a heavy tow yard. But they couldn't intensify the two variants. So it would be, controlled by the board, which is exactly what you want.
So it would be in their deed if it was to be sold by
It'd
somebody,
be
no?
The resolution would bind,
Okay.
would be the control. Yeah.
And on a totally different subject, remember when I complained about Charlestown Road and all the invasives they brought in and the erosion, et cetera, et cetera. So me and another person from Hampton did meet with the two of the engineers.
The county told me they were sending an engineer out.
They did. We met with them on a Wednesday morning and we discussed and showed them. They didn't even know what mile a minute looked like and whatever. And then they did come and mow. So they did do something, but we were not encouraging mowing because the mile a minute had already gone to seed, unfortunately. And also this new invasive grass that is there now. I didn't know it was new. My friend did. She's a biologist. Grows really fast, and so it's not safe again. Because I can't walk on the shoulder, which is where I'm supposed to walk. And the sight distance coming out of Mullen Lane onto Charlestown Road, even though they mowed it, they weed whacked the one side, didn't the other, and it still has a sight distance problem. So they didn't really. They did a little bit, but the guy was saying that they still had the escrow with the contracting company, and they were supposed to come in and regrade and reseed. I don't remember his exact words, what the engineer said, but I just wanted to let you know that they did come out to talk with me.
The county attorney reached out to me and said that they were sending an engineer out, but now that you mentioned escrow, I'm gonna ask the county attorney if that's the case, and if they could make some. More consistent.
I thought they were going to work with the contractor because the one side of the road, the grass seeds, there's no grass growing.
Problem again, I'm trying to be respectful, the county has many more roads, they don't roadside mow like we do, they're probably out there.
Well, once a year they usually do.
Like I said, it's once, but we're out there.
I know. Trust me, I walk down Mullen Lane and it's like, oh, that's pretty nice. And sometimes I tell DPW to not mow a particular bush or. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know. Yeah, thank you.
Block 24, lot 1 is private, correct? And it's in between two state lots.
Correct.
So if you merge the lots, who's the owner?
Now, it's not a merging of the lots, it's including them within the same redevelopment area. So the DOT property, and this is, it's kind of spelled out here, but DOT property would also be redeveloped, and because they're next to each other.
I understand the emergency, I don't understand the ownership.
So they would still remain separate ownership. The Highlands has, in some areas, approved these redevelopment sites with two adjacent properties that are owned by different entities.
And then I have another tricky question.
Okay.
So next to block 24-1, there is block 18, lot 1, that was also 2 acres vacant, that was preserved by the HCDC for $320,000 prior. and then was sold and was made a modified easement with allowing pervious surface of 2,680 square feet. Why can this precedent cannot be applied to this 2-acre vacant lot?
I have to take a look at.
You see what I mean?
The law.
I don't
I
understand.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
Um,
they did allow a modified easement, don't ask me why, I don't know. But it was allowed of 2,600 square feet and it's 2-acre lot.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look.
Yeah, just for consistency. Yeah, thank.
On public comment.
So, Bruce Johnson again, 930 you wrote, you mentioned a purchase of a mower. And it brought back a couple memories from when I was on the board. Maybe you guys are still doing it too. We used to be part of Morris County's co-op. Is that still the case?
Correct.
Oh, that's great. That's a great way to go. And the other thing too, do you investigate with 100 County, maybe you need another truck or something like that, to get rid of their trucks at time by selling them at auction? I don't know whether or not you're still participating in that. That can be, you get a great truck, you get a used truck, but you get it relatively inexpensively. So.
I say, unfortunately, the county, I just had a discussion with the county administrator about that.
Right.
The county stopped preferably selling the trucks to the municipalities about 10 years ago. And they also then started to replace them with a series of, I would say, first, unreliable, and then second, too expensive trucks. So the county started buying a certain brand of truck that we deemed to be unreliable. And then the county within 2 years agreed with us and switched to, I would say, Mack trucks now, which are beautiful. And while we just purchased 2 Kenworths, the Mack trucks are prohibitively expensive. And then even buying them used, they have not offered them for sale since, because they're so expensive.
Right.
They have a high, longer life theoretically. I will share too, the truck market, and again, I choose to tell me shut up, because I'm the resident car person and build cars and trucks and things, and I have this discussion with our DPW and the salespeople. The commercial equipment, anything really now, is not built the same way that it was. I sound like the old guy, but even the salespeople, and it's probably on purpose, our time horizon, maybe 10 years for a piece of heavy equipment at this point, where we used to get 20 years. We still have, I think it'll be going to the gov deals eventually. We still have a 1990, you probably bought it, a 1990 L9000 Ford. That's great, and we can't get parts for it anymore, but it's a great truck.
Yeah.
The problem is the newer trucks with electronics and the quality that they build into them.
Yeah.
They don't last in these conditions of plowing and in roads and things that we have here in Bethlehem Township.
So am I to understand then the trucks that were available before they went to this unreliable truck are no longer available for auction? They're
Correct.
not having the auction. Oh, okay.
So we do purchase from state co-ops. We do look for the best deals that we can get, and we have purchased, I think since 2000, I want to say almost since 2016, we purchased the trucks outright. We have not taken a note for any of those trucks. And so actually at this point too, we did reduce the tax rate and we are debt free. And every truck is probably, I don't think we have a truck other than that 1990 that we keep floating around. Not sure why, but all the trucks are probably years or newer, so it's a relatively new fleet. And they're all paid for in full. So we're in a pretty good position, and we have a capital investment plan. So we know the lifespan of the loader, the backhoe, the trucks, and so while we're not making debt payments, we do pay into a capital fund every year so that we can purchase these things outright going forward.
That sounds great, but don't lose sight, there'll be a time when these more reliable trucks in the
So
county,
if the
you're
Mack
gonna
trucks
get a
come
little
up,
bit.
if the Mack trucks come up, and
Yep.
I'm not
Great.
opposed to
That's
find
That's great to
deals.
keep open mind, yeah, because there could be some money saved there. And with the DOT, it sounds like DOT and this private company are pretty close. They're working together. And this is a favor for DOT, I think, but certainly for the private company as well. And I'd just like to have you keep in mind, well, first of all, I don't really know the resolution when they were doing the rock cleaning up on top of the hill. Whether that we ever got any response on that or not, but I know we were wondering about it. I think the town was wondering it because you sent a note over to the county. And the county was gonna do something about it. Did we ever get a response on what was going on over there? Wow, that didn't seem like it was necessary, at least to me. I used to work roads and bridges over at the county and I knew something of this. And that did seem like a bogus job. I don't know.
I'm not gonna say in a public meeting that it's a bogus job. I will say that I never supported it. I asked till DOT comes in and when they do work in Bethlehem Township, so.
That was
When they
Bethlehem.
pave 173, when they do the rock mitigation, when they do drainage, they ask for a resolution of support. I told them I did not want to give them a resolution of support for the rock wall mitigation project.
Mhm.
And if I don't, what happens? And then it's fine with us, we're gonna do the project anyway. So I cannot speak to whether I would agree probably with all those sentiments.
I just ask you to remind them of that maybe when this deal is being made. And what can we get out of this? Maybe we can get something out of this. The idea of going to more mass transit is good for people that live in Hunterdon County because the congestion on 78 could be relieved by better mass transit. And I know when we talked, or I talked to the DOT on that very same rock thing, I said, well, why don't you spend the money instead on a better park and ride or on trying to reactivate some of that rail line getting on out toward, Allentown, Easton Allentown. And that would take some load off of 78, which is a benefit to Bethlehem Township. So maybe, I mean, they want something, maybe in the deal, think about what maybe can help Bethlehem a little bit. And then, that could entail some negatives for us too. If you're getting a higher speed train going through the town, is that a negative? You definitely want to have the safety that you need to get it still to Heritage Park. I understand all that. But that could probably be worked out. And if there's less load on 78, it could be an improvement for the people of Bethlehem Township as well. So not to lose sight of that. So I think there's a little bit of a quid pro quo here, although the state might not see it that way, but that's okay.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other public comment? Any public comment on Zoom? Motion to close public comment?
Make a motion to close public comment.
Thank you. All in favor? There's no item for executive session, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Favor?
Aye.